system. So, or we can have everyone in here, but all the computers need to be muted. So you can still use the mics.
Okay. So we do have.
Okay, good. So you're not getting any more feedback then?
No.
Okay. And then did we dial in on this device still or no?
We did.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
They were able to hear us just talking. So.
Oh, they were?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So my question is, multi-screens, are you able to put them out?
Yeah, so this is what's going to then be shown on the stream. So if you want to change like the format of it, you can make adjustments.
Nicole, it's myself. Can you hear me?
Yes, I do hear you.
So I don't know if anybody is taking attendance, but this is Nora Hurley.
We're going to do a roll call in just a couple minutes. We're finalizing some IT issues.
And you didn't start anything on the meeting beforehand?
And I'm trying to log on via the Zoom or computer, but it doesn't seem to be working.
You should be able to just click on the link in the calendar invite.
So I see Nicole Duff. I could see her, but I can't see anybody else.
Mayor Bain should be, if you, at the top of the screen, if you move your mouse up to the top of the screen, there should be like 3 buttons that you can click. One is grid view.
Okay.
And then it should.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. I think that was correct, Kevin, wasn't it?
You're welcome.
The job is posted at $75.
This is going to be the stream to your computer, unless you guys switch over to cameras in here, which you can do that as well.
That's fine. We are eventually going to have a presentation.
Angelini and Viviani.
And you have the presentation loaded up on this already?
We have it available. We're going to.
Or you're going to share his screen?
Yeah, we're going to switch over to their screen.
Oh.
Correct.
This is not just a story. Well,
not over your device, but you can talk into the Goose mic.
One of my employees is so frustrated that. Hello, Chief Cannon. There's something wrong.
I see Beth is muted, thank God. This caller is not. So I did mute it, but as soon as I can talk,
Mike, this is Pat Sweeney. Do you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me, Pat?
Yeah, I got it. Thanks.
Sweeney, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Mark Christie, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Thank you. Dave. It's at 30 a.m.
There's some.
Absolutely.
Okay, well then do it through this. So you're going to press that one and do the roll call.
Council makes this look so easy.
I deal with everyone's frustration. Shit. But Randy called me because he was not getting anything. To tell the chief that he wasn't to do anything else until he took the chief himself. You know.
Hello.
Hey, I can't get the speaker working.
All right, I'll come in.
I'm not
All
sure.
right, Chief Carroll. Are you ready?
Got it. I'm ready to go whenever, yeah, we're ready to call the roll. Let's call the meeting to order. Nicole, can you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Chief Carroll,
Here.
Mark Christie,
I'm not happy unless it's right.
Brandy Carney,
No middle.
This is Alex for Brandy.
Laura Palinkas, Mayor Richard Bain,
Here? Yeah.
Mayor Paul Kumar,
Here.
Mayor Patrick Ward, Deputy Chief Harold Patel,
Ron Count here for the chief. He's gonna try to call on later.
And let's just take it one.
Fred Zabel,
Fred Zabel's here.
All right, thanks. All right.
Chief Niner, Chief Patrick Sweeney,
I'm here.
Lisa Zavir, Sheriff David Schilling, Chief John Joyce, Stephen Green,
I'm, here.
Chief Bruce Elliott, Beth Gatlin,
Hi, Nicole, I'm here.
Chief Rapicki.
Out of here, Sergeant John Medlong for Arcade Police.
Metlong for Chief Joyce.
Chief Joyce.
Thank you,
Yep.
sir. Chief Rapicki, Mike Dever,
Jim Hazelmahalis in place of Mike Dever.
we have a quorum.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody, for joining the meeting today. First order of business is approve the minutes, from the November 7th, 2019 C-Sub meeting, that was distributed, with this announcement.
Move for approval. Mayor Ward.
Sorry, Mayor Ward, again. No further questions, any questions on the minutes? Look for motion to approve.
Move. Bain moves. That it?
Need a second?
Fred Zabel, second.
Okay, are we have to do a roll call, can we just do yea and nay?
Do it again. Okay. Chief Carroll,
Yea.
Mark Christie,
This is to approve the minutes, so it would be an aye or a nay vote.
Is anybody else having a hard time hearing Chief Carroll too? Because I heard virtually none of what Chief Carroll just said.
Tunnel, Mike.
Yeah, Mike, your audio is really pretty lousy, to be honest with you.
It's probably that new fire
I
station.
called in on my phone. I mean, your video is fine, but your audio is pretty,
So while Chief Carroll is figuring out his audio, the motion and second was to approve the minutes as distributed, and we are now doing a roll call vote, ayes or nays. Nicole, if you could restart.
thank you. Chief Carroll,
Aye.
Thank you. Mark Christie? Alex Pelham? Fred, Mayor Bain?
Aye.
Mayor Kumar?
Here? Yes.
Fred Zabel?
Aye. Nicole, you missed Mayor Ward.
Mayor Ward is present?
He's been present, and he says aye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ron Comp?
Aye.
Chief Sweeney?
Aye.
Aye.
Sergeant Medlong? Steve Green?
Aye.
Beth Gatlin?
Aye.
Jim Hasmahelis?
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you. Chief Carroll.
Okay, is that better?
That is better, Mike.
All right, that was approval for the November 7th meeting, I assume?
Affirmative.
Okay, we have minutes for the February 13th, meeting that was also distributed. Looking for motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve, Alex.
Second. Roll call, please.
Chief Carroll, to save time, would we be okay just asking for any nays? And if there are none, we can take it as approval?
Yes, I like that idea. Any nays in the approval of the minutes? Hearing none, minutes are approved as submitted. Do we have anybody that wanted to participate in public comment? Hearing none, we'll go to committee reports. Communications. Is Steve Green on?
He was.
Right.
Okay, we're going to skip communications. Hearing none. Emergency management.
Thanks, Chief. This is Mark Christie. The Emergency Management Committee has not met since the last main CSAB in February, but I do have some updates from the Office of Emergency Management. As most of you are probably aware, our EOC has been activated since the beginning of March in response to the COVID-19 incident. Can you hear me okay? Is anybody having trouble here? Yep, okay. Concurrent to that activation, we also are manning PPE distribution center at the Harvard Garage location, which again, I assume most people are familiar with this at this point in the incident. It's been, I think, 7 months now. Things have been working relatively well for us. In the relative calm of the summer months, we have really tried to scale back operations where we can to be efficient and to also reintegrate some of our normal, day-to-day functions. So a lot of every response partner now is virtually supporting our EOC. It's only county staff physically in our EOC. We've reduced the number of sit reps, or are reducing the number of sit reps. We've reduced the number of briefings and reduced the number of days of operation at the distribution center. So all those efforts, again, are sort of to enable us to try to refocus some of our attention on our normal day-to-day functions, but with the understanding that we can obviously scale back up if we need to, if when we get into the winter months, if things get compounded by flu season and more effort needs to be focused on these efforts. We are also taking this relative calm time to begin an after-action process Specifically just kind of a mid-year, midpoint reflection of what our experiences have been over these past 7 months, what's worked well, what hasn't worked well, what we wish we would have known prior to this incident. So we're already in conversations with the Board of Health to strategize for that. And eventually, most of you will probably receive a survey from us to try to do some initial data collection on that, with the understanding that we'll have to replicate this process at certain intervals for the duration of this incident. So clearly, after the flu season, we will once again embark on a very similar survey process and add to whatever after action we begin to compile at this point. In addition to that, our county drone team has actually been pretty active over these past few months, starting actually just after the last CSAT meeting in February. We deployed out to the condominium fire in Rocky River and assisted response operations there. It worked out, I think, pretty well. Everybody had a positive experience with what we were able to offer from that. And then over the summer months, there's been, the unrest and demonstrations that have happened and are continuing to happen throughout the county. So we've deployed to several Cleveland demonstrations and some suburban demonstrations to support their efforts. And now we're actually trialing and going to purchase streaming capability. So we've been able to test it over these last few deployments where we can stream footage directly from the drone into an instant command post or an EOC, and you can see what we see and direct us to look at things that you need us to look at. So that too has been very helpful, and we're excited to actually have that capability for, on a permanent basis moving forward. One aspect of this we might get into a little bit today is that as a result of these deployments, we are seeing a need to have talk groups in our radios to better communicate with the places we're going and the people that we're working with. So Kevin from our office and Adam from our office have been working with Steve Green and the Communications Committee to see how we can go about doing that, adding additional community talk groups into our radios. Again, that might be something we get into a little more in depth at some point in this meeting. Changing gears a little bit, the presidential debate, and I know Fred, you might want to talk, or Chief Counsel wants to talk a little more about this, but everybody, I assume, knows that the presidential debate is now scheduled to occur in Cleveland on September 29th at the Healthcare Education Campus at Cleveland Clinic Case. And, we're currently having some cursory discussions with some response partners as to what purpose our EOC could possibly serve in that, whether it be a law enforcement staging area or an incident command post type set up. Either way, we plan that our EOC and, we will be involved in that effort in some capacity. But we're still, just sort of having these initial conversations to determine what exactly that capacity is going to be. And two more quick items. Red detectors, if you're from the fire world or if you're a mayor, for the foreseeable future, a number of communities have already given us their signed MOU back and picked up their detector, but some have not, and so we're going to be continuing that process. And the last thing I'll mention, and then I'll stop talking, is the EMAP reaccreditation on-site assessment for our office. For those of you that remember, we were accredited through the Emergency Management Accreditation Program 5 years ago. This year marks our 5-year reaccreditation process. Things are going to be a little bit different now based off of the pandemic conditions in our world. So it will actually be a virtual assessment. Assessors will not be here in person. So at some point, Kevin Fries from our office is the lead accreditation manager for us. He might be leaning on some of you to provide interviews or be available to answer questions about our program the week starting in October 26th, and then it'll continue on for about a month after that, where we'll be periodically communicating with our assessors virtually, and they'll be asking questions of our program. And again, the program includes partners like yourselves that have a stake in what we're doing. So more on that to come, but I just want to mention that right now because we are learning more daily about how that's going to roll out for us, and it's a big deal for us.
Mark, I had one more thing about that. As part of that, there likely will be a number of plans coming to the October meeting, just as a heads up, so you'll have plenty of reading for the next meeting.
That is my report. If anybody has any questions for me now, I can take them.
Hi, Mark. This is Beth Gatlin.
Beth?
Hi. Just one question. Are you guys going to plan to do a THYRA this year?
Yes. Yep. Do you hear me? Yes.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Anybody else?
Okay, hearing no other questions for emergency management. EMS committee. Bruce Elliott online. Okay, I'll offer from the EMS committee standpoint, I know Bruce has been working with hospital systems medical directors on keeping our COVID PPE, our COVID response, not just PPE protocol, but also EMS protocols and the way we deal with COVID responses. So we've been very busy with them, and I think the medical directors have done a really good job keeping us informed and advising us on safe and proper precautions as we move through the pandemic. I don't believe he met otherwise. As far as fire committee goes, Mark Vetter, are you online? You can update us about USAR? Or has been, I should say. Mark Bender, online for Region 2 Water. Hearing none. Brian Harding could not make it. He's tied up at work today. I know this is probably getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. It's been very difficult for any of the specialty teams to do any training due to the COVID restrictions. I mean, even at the local firehouse, it's been difficult. We've just been starting to do some of that stuff ourselves. So there is some grant funding, but we're going to get the grants eventually. But at the end of the day, he'd still like to use training and exercise. They had an exercise scheduled, a joint exercise with HAZMAP this summer, supposed to occur in August, but unfortunately due to the COVID restrictions, they've been unable to conduct that exercise. It was supposed to be a 24-hour exercise, but obviously that did not occur. As far as fire committee goes, we have not met. We were trying to meet in June, but unfortunately we could not meet. Hopefully we'll meet before our next meeting. Fire committee members, though, have been busy with helping the county distribute their PPE across the county, as well as assessing our needs with each fire department when this first kicked off, which went, I think, very well, because some fire departments were a little, I won't say heavy with PPE. They had some extra supplies or oversupply of certain PPE, so we were able to reallocate some of that equipment within the different planning regions to cover each other until such time we got additional PPE. I think that worked actually very, very well. And the counties have been very gracious in supplying fire departments with PPE, and that's been much appreciated. And again, we've used the different planning region coordinators from the fire committee to help with that. So unless there's any other questions for fire committee, hearing none, we'll move on to health and medical.
Hi, everybody. This is Beth Gatlin. The health and medical group has been working, of course, with COVID. Public health, is pretty busy, and they will remain so throughout the remainder of the year and into next year, and possibly even into the year after that. So the hospitals, we've been working with the hospitals in Zone 1. So Zone 1 is inclusive of all the hospitals in the Northwest section and also the NICO area, so about 100 hospitals. We've been working with them, and also the long-term care facilities for testing, helping coordinate the National Guard testing with those long-term care facilities within our region. Let me see. Specifically for the CSAB, working with Cynthia Mason, just gave the approval of the specs for our PPE project from UASI fiscal year 17. So now that can go out for bid. We're working with Chief Carroll regarding the hospital marks, radio reprogramming, the talk groups, and getting an MOU to place the county template into the hospital template finally. And then we're also working on creating a burn surge annex to our coalition response plan, and we're also updating the infectious disease plan that's the Ebola and other special pathogens. So that's what we're working on. And just, the vaccine for the regular flu should be out within the next month or so. It usually comes out in September. So just a reminder for folks to get their flu shot. It's going to be a little bit difficult to tell, between whether you have the flu, whether you have COVID. So make sure that you get your flu shot to protect you at least somewhat against getting the flu this year. And that's all I have to report. Thanks, Mike. Any questions?
Hearing none, Beth, I want to let you know, Mark Christie, or talk to giving you that MOU no later than obviously tomorrow. And then I did speak to Brian Harding about that additional information in terms of what talk groups each agency is using. We're hopefully going to have something for you on that by the end of the day tomorrow. And that's something that I'm going to bring to communications to have that actually put in a TIC-P. The one thing that came out of this process and talking to Brian is while we do have an interoperable Marks talk group, or that was should be put in all the Marks radios, it was passed through CSEB, the Communications Committee and CSEB. There is one for the Cleveland system that we're trying to get some more information on. I'm not sure if it's completely built out, but again, that will go through Communications Committee and probably ultimately to come to CSEB for final passage. But we have a real nice interoperable talks group that's Mark-centric, but we need one for Cleveland, so they're working on that. Not that that's an impact you, Beth, but at least that you'll have the information of what talk groups are what.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, law enforcement. Chief Cannon. We don't hear you. Nope, you're still muted.
Mike, this is Chief Rapicki,
yeah.
Law enforcement. We as the fire department have not met, but I do want to thank the county for their PPE distribution, and if Mike Cannon can hear, he could maybe add to that because he led the chiefs in the suburbs for distribution and where they can go to pick up the equipment. Mike, are you on?
I am, yeah. It worked out real well with Brian Klaus and Mark Christie. They actually, and Mike Carroll helped tremendous getting us organized. We have to follow the firemen to see how to do it. So it worked well. And that's it for my side.
Thanks, Mike. That's it for me, and I won't make any fire jokes today.
Thanks, Chief. Any questions for law enforcement? Okay, Public Works.
Yes, this is Jim Hasmerhills, Public Works. We don't have anything to report at this time.
Okay, and I'd like to say an accolade for Public Works for, having us use that space over there for allocation of PPE in the county has been very helpful, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, county grants report.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Leslie White with County Public Safety. I'm going to attempt here to share a PowerPoint of our grants update. So let's see. Are you guys seeing my screen?
Starting to.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Chief Farrell, can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. All righty. So let's start with our US 17. Due to COVID, IOEMA extended this grant through 30th of 2021. Our goal, though, is to have the current project wrapped up by the end of this year. The fixed automated license plate recognition system. This is currently the contract is being submitted to or with County Council. They're on recess right now, but when they're back, we anticipate the approval at the 9/29, and we'll be able to do installation of the new site in October. For the radio project, Baker University Heights, Beechwood, and Lyndhurst, we're rebidding this and combining it with the FY19 radio project. So the next project includes Walton Hills, Oakwood, and East Cleveland. And we're working to get this out as soon as we can. We've had a glitch in our new ERP system, but we've got people from fiscal and our department helping us to try and get this out as soon as possible. The helicopter downlink project is with the county's Office of Procurement and Diversity for conversion into the county template, and then the final bid document will be sent to the subject matter expert for final approval prior to release. EOC video wall, the formal bid closed on 7/29, and unfortunately bidders didn't submit the necessary documents. We did receive bids, that's the good, but we're working with OPD to schedule a re-release, and we're sure to pull out people didn't do correctly, so they do it correctly this next time. Continuing with 17, we have the 2 portable X-ray processors for Cleveland. The bid is scheduled to be 8/18, and it'll close on 9/10. As Beth mentioned, the Packers filters is moving right along, and we're getting that to OPD to get into the county template. The USTAR rescue strut is with OPD to get into the template, and we'll send it out for final approval before release. State Homeland 17, again, due to COVID, Ohio EMA extended the grant, but this one through May 31st of 2021. But our goal is still to have the projects wrapped up by the end of the year. The portable tablet-based explosive ordnance disposal X-ray systems for Cleveland Bomb are scheduled to be released on 8/18 and close on 9/10. The chemical analyzer is with OPD to put into the template and will be sent out to the SME and Ohio EMA for final approval. The confined space and hardline communication system for USTAR is going to be on next Monday's Board of Control agenda for approval. The gas generators for USTAR is complete, and they've picked those up. The technical search training for USTAR, the contract has been extended to 10/31. So this is one that we're having some scheduling difficulties due to COVID. Continuing with 17, the water search training. This is also for USTAR. We're awaiting specs from the SME. For some hazmat sustainment supplies, we have this broken up into 8 different projects, and half of them are complete, and the remaining half are out to bid. Hazmat special ops training. This is the original training was canceled, and we're awaiting specs on the replacement work. For State Homeland 18, this grant ends in March of 2021, and our goal is to have the project wrapped up by the end of the year. Our communications headsets for RTA, this purchase is with Ohio EMA for review and approval. The USTAR, for USTAR, we have multiple training and exercise items here that for all 4 of those items, we're awaiting specs. The hazmat training and exercise, we have, again, that we're awaiting for specs on the SME for those. For the hazmat supplies, we're pushing that out, and we'll do the bid in November. I'm sure, as you guys know, those supplies expire, so we try and push it out so that way we're not overlapping the supplies that we have on hand with the new ones coming in. The EMS mass casualty trailer supply replacement, we're developing the specs based on the information that was provided. For 19 State Homeland, this one ends December 31st of 2021, and our goal is to have projects wrapped up by the end of September of next year. So we mentioned the radios already. We're going out to bid on that. The hazmat sustainment supplies, these would go out to bid August of 21. And then the hazmat training is still to be scheduled and needs to be completed by August of next year. So now if we switch gears to state homeland law enforcement, this is one where the grant was extended to May 31st of 2021, but the procurement for all projects has been completed, and we're just finalizing and closing out the grant. We do have 1,700 remaining, so we usually just take, for instance, if we bought a radio on 18, we would move a radio and an accessory over or something like that to eat up the funds, but of course that's with Ohio EMA's blessing. For state homeland LE 18, this one ends March 31st next year, and would like to have by the end of this year. We have heavy plates and carriers for RTA, and the Border Control just approved that purchase this past Monday. The vehicle barriers and hauler for Metro Parks, the PO has been issued on that. For the caseware software, this one's going through the county's approval process, but it should be on Border Control shortly with a 9/1 start date. And it did go to TAC review today, so we're one step closer. The MEMX software and the data exchange are both complete. So for LE 19, this one ends December 31st of 2021, and would like to have that wrapped up by September. And then we have the RTA heavy plates and carriers that we just are doing one purchase to cover both project years. So with our LE or our FY20 grants, the state's awaiting FEMA's approval on their application, but based on last year, we'd anticipate receiving our award notification this fall, and then the application would be due mid-December. So that's all I have for you. I hope I didn't talk as long as Mark Christie.
It's funny. Sorry, Mark. Two questions, or a question regarding, I know the 17 money trying to get spent by the end of this year at the latest. Is there any possibility we can swap out some 19 projects? Specifically, I know you're going to pair in that radio grant for Oakwood, East Cleveland, I forget the other community. Is there any way we can just swap those projects out between 17 and 19?
Leslie, this is Mary Beth. I'll answer that question. There is a possibility, however, we can't just unilaterally. What we will have to do is reach out to the emergency managers of the 5 counties and get their consent, and then reach out to Ohio EMA and get their approval. I don't know that I would anticipate any problems with doing that, but there is those formalities that we would have to do. If that's something that CSAB would like us to do, just let us know.
I'm just afraid that there's a lot of money available that's there that we need to spend by the end of the year, or what the goal would be by the end of this year, I believe. And there's just no way those trainings are going to occur, and next spring might just be too tight with the grant deadline. It seemed prudent to me if we could, they're already approved. I mean, it's been approved, went through the 5 counties. All we're doing is just taking some of the 19 radio money, allocating that towards and using the 17 money towards the radios, or whatever we can do. Any other thoughts on that from Alex or?
Yeah, Mike, I don't think there'll be any issue. I'll echo what Mary Beth said. I don't think there'll be any issue with the regionals. We just have to go through it with the state to make sure some of the back end, the sausage making that CSAB doesn't see, to make sure that's all oriented correctly. But I would say for our specialty teams with the trainings, even if we do shift it, there's got to be a realistic possibility that they're going to get these trainings done, because I think we're going to see, if you look at all the models, if you look at everything we're dealing with in COVID, at least through mid next year, that we're going to be experiencing a lot of the restrictions in traveling and restrictions in people getting close together. So I know everybody wants to have money for training. I know it's important, but we've got to make sure we're being realistic with holding money back, because we don't want to be in a situation where we have 2 months to spend money and then we end up wasting it because we've been holding out hope. Not as long as Mark Christie.
And I hear it, and I think, you know, there's no way the training is going to occur at the end of this year, early next first quarter next year. That's not going to happen, no matter how nice I think it might. But if we can,
Chief, if we can, if you're not talking, please put your phone or your speaker on mute.
Is that better? Hello?
Slightly better.
Alex, you there?
Yeah, I'm good.
If for some reason there's an echo that wasn't there before. But nonetheless, I would suggest that we reach out to those 5 county EMA directors and the state to see if we can switch some of the funding projects around. And it gives us more time that if they can't do that training next year, then we have a chance to reallocate funds for something else. But being that it's such a tight time period, I would suggest that we try to flip some 19 projects with 17, so we don't lose that 17 money, and it still gives the opportunity for the specialty teams to conduct their training that they're trying to do.
I concur with that, Mike.
Then we will go ahead and make that happen.
Any other comments from anybody?
I just wanted to clarify, it's the 18 money. You said 17, but.
Yeah, whatever money, I thought there was some money set aside in 17 for training that's due by the end of this year.
Yeah, so there, Mike, just to give you a heads up, there's roughly 52 grand in State Homeland 17 and roughly 150 grand in State Homeland 18. So it's a little over 200 grand we're talking about moving around.
Right, and there's a possibility that 18 money might be able to be expended. But for now, I'd rather just move the 17 to 18 or 19 or whatever, and then give those teams an opportunity to, if they can't do it, they can't do it, but given the short period of time, I think we should do that. Second question for grants is, and this is just, I guess, a personal update, the PPE body armor ordered for Cleveland Fire for active shooter response, do we have a delivery date, expected delivery date at this point?
Not that I know. I don't know if Larry's on. It was just approved this past Monday.
Okay.
So I don't know if we have a delivery date yet.
Okay.
This is Larry. Chief, to answer your question, as Leslie said, it was approved this week by the council, and I have not received the system processing so that I can create the PO and send it to the vendor. As soon as that happens, with the PO, I'll include you on the email when I send it to the vendor, asking for anticipated delivery and all that same update to keep you informed since it's coming to your house. Firehouse.
All right, that sounds good. And is there any possibility, one question was texted me, is there any possibility of getting an additional extension on the 17 money, do you think, because of the COVID issue, or are we kind of?
0.0% is my guess, not to be precise.
Sounds good. Any other questions for grants? Hearing none. Agency liaison reports, are any of those, Kevin, are you aware?
Beth already reported, and I'm not seeing any other agency. Mike Herb is, I think, on the phone from Fusion, but.
Fusion, do you have anything you want to report on?
No, nothing here in Fusion.
Okay, thank you.
Brian, is there anything from Neo Rams? Is Brian Kloss on?
Look like it.
Okay, hearing none. Any old business?
Chief, I don't know if Comms Committee ended up getting on the line. If they have a report.
Who?
Steve Green or Lisa from the Communications Committee.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Steve, did you have any report from Communications or Lisa?
Let's see, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, I think there's something wrong with this mute button. Anyway, no, we tried to meet twice. We haven't been able to do that. Expect we'll make our next meeting probably via the WebEx. I think I heard a little bit of a question about talk groups for Cleveland. Can you clarify that for me?
Yeah, Steve, if you remember a few years ago, we came up with a countywide interoperability template on the market side of things that could be installed in any county grant issued radio, like Zone 11 on. And we're looking for a Cleveland system interoperability template similar to what we have in Marks. I guess there was one that was kind of out there. I kind of remember talking about it, but I never saw a finalized version of it. Brian Harding was going to reach out, or has reached out to Brad Hankey, and I forget the other person he works with, the woman's name. So he's going to try to figure that out. It's something that, like we did with the Marks version, that probably comes through your committee, Communications Committee, and then, approve it that it would be installed in any Cleveland system radio at Zone 11 on. It's something that, when you have your next communications meeting, I'll make sure I make myself available. We can discuss further about it, but it seems to make sense. We have a Marks version, we should have a Cleveland system version, and then both those should probably go into TICP.
So if Brian wants to reach out to me directly, maybe I can clarify the question. Cleveland has, I think it's 48 talk groups that they're willing to program in anybody's radio. They are part of the template that we came up with. Some of those, I think like 4 of them are encrypted, but really the first 16 tend to be the ones that agencies use. But if he wants to reach out.
They didn't have anything to report. All the regular agencies have their boats in the water. It's one of the busiest years in the recent past. They're also working on NFL draft planning, so assuming that COVID doesn't retake over the world, if that's even possible at the moment, the NFL draft, which is a really, really big event, is scheduled to be in Cleveland late March, early April. I don't remember the exact date, but that'll be an event that'll obviously pull a lot of resources, both on the waterfront as well as on the land.
Okay, it's good to know. Sounds good. New business. There's discuss future subcommittee meetings online. I'm not sure who put that on there.
Yeah, so that's related to the fact that the committee meetings are also public meetings and need to be streamed as well. So any committee that is looking to hold a meeting in the coming months remotely, if they can coordinate with our office, Nicole Duff, who is the clerk of CSAB, has the process figured out. We had some minor technical difficulties today starting up, but we got those worked out, so we should be good for the future. So if you do plan on having a committee meeting, please reach out to Nicole.
Now, that's only if we're doing an online meeting, because in the past, when we had our regular meetings, it would be posted on the county website, and there was no, per se, recording or streaming of that meeting.
Correct. So if you also let her know for those in-person meetings so it could get on the website, but we have to schedule a specific room at the administration headquarters to be able to stream the WebEx meeting onto the county's website to make it a public meeting.
So if you are not going to physically meet in person and you want to do a meeting like this, we have to go through the hoops that we went through today. If you're going to still bring everybody together and go against the governor's mandate of 10 or more people, then you can do it in person. And it's the old way.
Okay. All committees, make sure you
And Chief,
take into consideration.
this is, I have one more item to add for new business, kind of in the same process theme. We have to go through the process to confirm or affirm the appointments from all the different organizations that have representation on the CSAB. So if you recall, 2 years ago, we went through that process where we asked everybody to, the different organizational leadership to send us, affirmation that, Chief Carroll, Chief Sweeney, you are the representatives from the Fire Chiefs Association on the CSAB, so on and so forth. We have to undertake that process again, so in all likelihood, Nicole Duff, at some point in the near future, will be sending out messaging that's going to request that. We just want to make a mention of that so you guys can expect to see that at some point soon.
Now, Mark, again, due to COVID, could it just be easier just to say if those have changed, just to let you know, otherwise move forward?
I think it can be, it can be an email. Yep.
Nora, do you have an opinion on that? I know Nora Hurley's on from a legal side.
Because we're 3/4 of the way through this year. By the time you get all that, we're going to be all the way through the year.
Well, it's a 2-year appointment. So, we can confirm, if Nora's not on, we can confirm with her and then circle back to you, Chief.
Okay.
Nothing else from me.
Any other new business? Hearing none, motion to adjourn.
Our first question is from Laura Hancock at cleveland.com.
Hello, Governor.
Oh. Laura?
Hello?
There you go. Go on.
Is there a question from somebody?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Any nays? Hearing none, meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody. See you next time.